Ever feel like you're just scratching the surface of things?
Mm,
Today we're going deep, but not in the way you might think.
okay.
Our source.
Yeah.
Just this fall archivo.unico.txt. But hidden within the lines of this Visual Basic code, there's a story waiting to be uncovered.
It's amazing how something as seemingly impersonal as code can offer such a personal glimpse into someone's world, isn't it?
It's like we're digital archaeologists brushing away the dust to reveal a hidden artifact. What kind of story do you think this code might tell looking at it for the first time?
Well, when I see Visual Basic, I think back to the technology landscape of its time.
Right.
This wasn't just drag and drop programming. This took time, intentionality, and the fact that it's not your typical program. This appears to be someone's personal project, which adds another layer to it.
So not just reading code, but reading between the lines, looking for those subtle hints left by the coder.
Precisely. And fortunately for us, archivo.unico.txt seems to be full of them. Take the names of these forms, for instance. aconver, alarmas, album to photos. These aren't your standard program components.
Album to photos, that's got to be a photo album, right?
Right.
And alarms, is that like an alarm clock feature? It sounds almost like a personal organizer or something.
That's a very astute observation, and it speaks volumes about the coder's mindset. They were crafting something tailored for a very specific purpose. This wasn't about mass appeal. This was personal.
Okay, so we've got this personalized application, but what's the story behind it? Is there anything that hints at who this person might be?
Let's delve a little deeper. One of the first things you notice, apart from the Visual Basic itself, is the use of Spanish throughout the code. And then there's this intriguing reference to Merlin.
Merlin, like the wizard. What's that doing in here?
It's highly likely this refers to a text-to-speech engine or software that was popular in Merlin's time. Imagine this. Back then, integrating text-to-speech into a personal project, it wasn't a simple plugin.
Yeah.
It took effort, ingenuity.
This coder wasn't just a casual user, they were going the extra mile. And that makes me even more curious about these acontecimientos importantes, those important events Lucy mentioned. What's the story there?
You've hit on a crucial point. The code for these important events is meticulous. Dates, times. It's clear the coder placed immense value on accurately recording these moments. They even built in functionality to sort and filter them.
Almost like they wanted to revisit these memories, relive them in a way. Makes you wonder, what kind of events merited this level of detail? Were they grand celebrations or something more intimate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the code ever so subtly offers us a clue. Within these date entries, we find mentions of grand amour, great love, alongside two curious names.
Wait, hold on. Are those the actual event descriptions? Talk about wearing your heart on your sleeve or your code in this case? What were the names?
One is MvIiaX Diario Novi, and the other simply Nomnov.
Nomnov. That just seems too deliberate to be random. Is it possible this is an abbreviation? Could Nomnov stand for nombre novio, boyfriend's name, or even girlfriend's name?
You're picking up on the nuances beautifully. Given the Spanish context and the presence of gran amor, it's a very plausible interpretation. It's as though the coder, perhaps unconsciously, embedded this personal connection within the very fabric of their creation.
Wow, it's like we're uncovering a digital love letter, written not in ink, but in lines of code. This Nomnov, they must have been incredibly special to the coder.
Absolutely. And the care with which these details are handled speaks to a deep emotional connection. Remember the photo album form. Now we see it tied to these important events, these shared moments in time.
It's all starting to come together, isn't it? We have this image of the coder, likely Hispanic, drawn to technology but not defined by it, pouring their heart into this project. It wasn't just about functionality. It was about capturing something precious, something they didn't want to forget. It's almost like we can feel the coder's presence, can't we?
Yeah.
Their love for Nomnov, the importance of these events, it's all woven into this code, but there's still so much we don't know.
That's the beauty of this kind of exploration. We're left with tantalizing glimpses, these fragments of a life lived. It sparks the imagination. Who was Nomnov? What were these important events that they shared?
And what about those other forms we touched on earlier, like aconver and alarmas? Could they hold further clues?
It's certainly possible. Aconv events of the year, perhaps. It suggests a desire to document not just the grand moments, but the rhythm of daily life, those smaller occurrences that make up a year.
And the alarmas, those alarms. Could they tell us about the coder's routine, their habits, maybe even hint at their worries or anxieties?
We're venturing further into the realm of speculation, but it's a valid line of inquiry. After all, the choices we make and how we organize our lives, what we choose to remember, Those choices reveal a lot about who we are.
It's amazing how a single file, tucked away in a hard drive somewhere, can contain such a wealth of information, not just data, but emotions, memories, connections.
It reminds us that technology, at its core, is a reflection of ourselves. The tools we create, the ways we use them, they tell a story whether we realize it or not. What will our digital footprint say about us years from now?
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? This deep dive into archivounico.txt has been like opening a window into another person's world. We may never know the full story, but the search, the exploration, that's been illuminating in itself.
And sometimes, the questions we're left with are just as valuable as the answers we seek. This deep dive has certainly given us much to ponder about the intersection of technology, memory, and the enduring power of human connection.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what stories lie dormant within our own devices, waiting to be unearthed. That's something to think about until our next deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and as always, happy exploring.